On our 10th wedding anniversary, my husband, Noah Bennett, dragged me, despite my thalassophobia, to go freediving and accidentally ran into his childhood sweetheart, Ruby Fraser. When a massive sea creature appeared, Noah ripped away my oxygen tank. He abandoned me with my foot trapped in the coral reef, choosing to save Ruby instead. After being rescued, I begged Noah, an avid gamer, to keep the noise down as I was having a nervous breakdown. Instead, I was forced to listen to their passionate lovemaking next door all night long. Noah blamed me for being immature, while my own mother, Ashley Ford, advised me to learn to tolerate it. Little did anyone know that I had already accepted my professor, Edward Langley's offer to study abroad that night. Noah, you wouldn't be able to catch up to me. My feet throbbed with excruciating pain as the coral had torn through my ankles, leaving them bleeding badly. I hunched over, my hands trembling as I desperately tried to free myself from the coral branches. Even with my broken nails, I couldn't make any progress. Yet I remembered Noah insisted on bandaging even the slightest bruise whenever I got hurt. Please, Noah, help me. I begged. As I waved my arms frantically, seawater rushed into my mouth while I tried to call for help. With only one lung, I was on the verge of suffocation and quickly pulled my breathing mask back on like it was my lifeline. Noah, I think I'm running low on oxygen, Ruby said sweetly, her fingers trailing suggestively across Noah's muscular chest beneath his diving suit. Noah gently took Ruby's hand in his. Zoe, switch tanks with Ruby, he ordered. The color drained from my face as my bloodied hands instinctively clutched the oxygen tank on my back. How could you do this to me? I shook my head frantically. Fear crept over me like an invisible net, squeezing the breath from my lungs. The deep blue water surrounding me seemed to close in as the feeling of suffocation wrapped around my throat like an invisible hand. Dizzy and lightheaded, I gave up trying to free my feet and hunched over the coral, taking deep breaths through my mask. The underwater current shifted suddenly. Small fish darted away as a large, dark shadow slowly approached from the distance. Oh my God! What is that monster? Grab the oxygen tanks, and let's get out of here, someone screamed in panic. Noah was freaking out, too, swimming frantically towards me. You should have given them to us earlier. Are you trying to get us killed? He shouted as he roughly yanked the oxygen tank off my back, causing me to stumble and sink toward the ocean floor. My foot got caught on something, leaving me hanging upside down. The combination of weightlessness, suffocation, and pain was unbearable. I felt like I was dying. In the last second, before losing consciousness, I desperately grabbed the edge of Noah's clothes. A sharp pain shot through my chest as my body swayed from the impact. Did he just CK me? Through my fading vision, I saw Noah clutching Ruby with one arm and gripping the oxygen tank with the other, his fins moving at lightning speed. I had given Ruby one of my lungs, let him force me to get an IUD, and now he kicked me and left me to die? The massive sea creature finally revealed itself before my eyes. It was a giant octopus. Its 8 enormous tentacles swayed as it glided past me, not even sparing me a glance. The octopus' slimy secretions splashed onto my skin, releasing a nauseating stench of decay. I tried to console myself with the small mercy that octopuses weren't known to eat humans, though it felt like cold comfort in my despair. I let my body go limp as the seawater flooded into my lungs. As death approached, my most bitter memory played over and over in my mind. It had been an ordinary evening, with me lying anxiously on the cold operating table. Ruby lay unconscious on the bed next to mine. During this surgery, one of my lungs would be transplanted into Ruby. Noah had promised that if I saved his cousin, he would get a vasectomy and commit to our child-free lifestyle. Though he had agreed to this before marriage, he only backed out because of pressure from his parents. On the operating table, I naively thought that I should make some sacrifice for Noah, even if I didn't want kids. I spoke up, Doctor, I have a low tolerance for anesthesia. Noah must have told you about this. The lead surgeon, a middle-aged man in his 50s, just frowned and silently signaled the anesthesiologist to increase the dosage. I froze. Hadn't Noah mentioned it? As the anesthesia started to kick in, I drifted in and out of consciousness. However, I could still hear the clinking of surgical instruments. The harsh fluorescent lights above were blinding, and through the haze, I felt them cutting into my stomach. Sharp, stinging pain shot through my nerves, making me cry out. I heard the medical staff whispering among themselves. What's going on? Why is she still conscious? A female nurse asked. The lead surgeon lowered his voice. Her husband never said she was this resistant to anesthesia. We shouldn't even be doing this surgery. What do we do now? We've already cut her open. Keep going. Actually, her husband slipped me some cash and said his wife had a high pain tolerance. An eerie silence fell over the operating room after those words. Tears welled up in my eyes as I felt the cold surgical instruments moving through my organs. The pain was unbearable, with every cell in my body screaming in agony. My limbs twitched helplessly as I lay there, unable to speak. At this point, I had no choice but to let the doctors finish the surgery. It was either that or die. The torture-like procedure seemed endless, and in my hazy state, I watched as they removed my blood-soaked lungs. Finally, it was over, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me. By the time they started stitching, I must have been too numb to feel anything anymore. Can we start closing her up now? Asked the squeamish nurse, her voice trembling. Yes, we'll do the IUD insertion after the sutures. IUD? Wasn't that for sterilization? He promised he would get a vasectomy instead. My heart sank, and the tears I'd held back streamed uncontrollably down my face. My body started to move slightly in protest. No. Please stop. I told him about my uterine fibroids. An IUD was dangerous for me. The two doctors forcefully spread my legs and inserted the IUD through my body into my uterus. The combination of rage and unbearable pain made me pass out. When I regained consciousness, it was dawn. I struggled to open my eyes, feeling like every bone in my body was broken, consumed by pain. In the morning light, the man I had loved for years was leaning over the adjacent bed, his arms braced on either side. He placed a tender, lingering kiss on Ruby's forehead. Ruby's sleeping profile suddenly matched the lock screen I had glimpsed on Noah's phone. It wasn't just some random picture from the internet. The girl on Noah's phone was Ruby all along. I smirked bitterly as the cold ocean water surrounded me. Suddenly, a hand grabbed my waist and pulled me up from the water.